one point I forgot to add. I'd like to say we got to let go of a lot of our hangups too. We got a lot of hangups about different things. I remember, and I'm gonna throw all three of y'all under the bus real quick. I remember one of my first higher definition. No, this is a real thing though, and it doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. It just tells you the hang up. One of my first higher definition.
Edit this out if it goes to
One
left.
one of my
It's
first
already
higher
going left.
one of my first higher definition shows I was on. One of my part-time jobs was doing to keep my business afloat was being like a caregiver, and these guys, the father was dying or on his kind of on his deathbed. One of the brothers lives here in Charlotte. The other brothers live out of town, and a brother was in town, and I brought it up on higher definition that this made me think. One of the brothers rubbed his brother's shoulders, and I said I made light of like I looked at that and I realized that there was nothing wrong, and y'all guys roasted me. Y'all said, man, that's cool with rubbing shoulders. Now, this is a little bit too far. But I realized that these was two blood brothers. That wasn't what it was. You know what I'm saying? This was my hang up. They the same thing he's talking about, those people holding hands. This was my hang up, my trauma, my curse that had me looking at this some kind of way. They didn't think anything about it. And so those are the types of things I think we got to let go of some of our hang-ups. I'm not saying we're going to be rubbing each other's shoulders or whatever, but there's other things like that. Where do you draw the line? You don't know what the trauma and the curse is. And when my uncle was dying, this brought it full circle to me. My uncle was dying, and he knew I was going through this the last month, taking care of him. Only thing made him feel better, the last 2 or 3 weeks he was dying, he wanted people to massage him, his back and his sides and his kidneys and his livers. And then that hit me that this stupid way of thinking. I'm thinking, these two brothers was touching each other. And in that moment, I let all that trauma go though. Because my uncle said, just rub on, I just forgot all of that. I let it go. I'm not worried about what it looked like to nobody, what nobody think. I'm just where at? Right. Where? He's like right there, it feels good. So these are life lessons to me. I'm looking, and we could go through these things, and I could have learned nothing from all of that. I could have just said that was terrible what they did and whatever. But I put that together in my mind and start realizing like these traumas that we go through that have us feeling ways and hang-ups about some things. And I don't know if rubbing shoulders, none of us want to do that, but where do we need to check ourselves on some of these hang-ups?
But I think that it goes back to what Everett talked about as well. It's like for black men, it's almost like you can't show weakness because a lot of people will try to take advantage of that. How many people, and me being guilty myself, have asked someone how you doing, and it's just out of formality. I'm not really truly concerned with how they doing. Say if you even in the work environment, hey, good morning, how you doing? And they may say fine, and you keep on moving. It's just what it is. But how many of us really want to know how that person is doing? And if they unpack that stuff on them, and I'll give an example. Even my wife the other week, just Holy Spirit put on her just to check on a person that we hadn't talked to in a while. She was like, this has been on my spirit. I need to check on them. And she called her. And when I tell you, initially it started out, kind of formal. Hey, yeah, this is happening, this and that, the little front and stuff. And then as they got into it, found out that, she's been going through a whole lot, with the kids, with things like that. She hadn't really been able to talk to anybody. So I took that situation to say, how many other of us, even brothers, are hurting like that and don't want to say that because we don't want to be looked at as being weak. So it's like Everett talked about. So we hold on to it. You have ulcers. You have heart problems, we gaining weight. You're putting just stuff under and emotional eating and stuff like that. You kind of just sweeping all these things under the rug for the purpose of not looking weak. But what is the cost of that?
God me, oh great Jehovah, pilgrim in this barren land. Some of y'all need that. Some of y'all ain't made it to the church house in so long. Church house forgot what you look like. They about to take you off on the road. You ain't gonna be able to be buried there. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in y'all's lives. Welcome to Higher Definition Radio, everyone. Happy Sunday. We're almost in the dog days of summer. A lot going on. Wanted to pull everyone together for kind of a current events, kind of reset ourselves. Before I get started, I want to give a shout out to Everett Abel. Happy birthday. And I know I get on his nerves every single day. That we speak multiple times a day. And like he tell me, man, you just don't know when to quit. And I don't even know how to take that. So happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday. And I see my second spiritual advisor watching, Mr. Jimmy Dixon. If you are starting a church and you want that church to have 5 members who all fussing, Jimmy is your man. Y'all call him. He'll get the party started on multiple ends. But with that, I'm going to say happy Sunday to everyone. Glad you guys are watching tonight. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Looking forward to the people we got assembled. AJ, J-Mac, and Dr. Houston. Tia, we're gonna be on it tonight. So happy Sunday. I'm gonna start off with J Mac. How you been, sir?
I've been pretty good, man. It's been a long time since I've been on the show. It feels like so. I'm eager to get back. Always have a good time. I will say, I think this is my 3rd show in a row. You put me on here with another doctor. I feel some type of way. You're trying to make me feel like I'm less than. Every time I'm on the show, it's doctor somebody on here with me. So I'm starting to think you just want to make me look bad or something.
Man, the way you went in with Dr. Martin about a year ago, man, I can't have y'all back on the show again.
No, me and her cool. We fine. It wasn't no problem.
Okay. All right. So I had to limit how many doctors I have you aligned with because you get a lot of hands sometimes, sir.
I learned from the best, sir.
AJ, how are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing incredible, man. I always say I'm back like I never left. Good to be a part of the show. Got a dynamic crew on today, and as always, a pleasure to be on every opportunity I get, regardless of the topic. So glad to be here.
No, and speaking of Dr. Martin will lead one of our shows in a couple weeks on politics and women. I encourage everyone to watch that as we are entering into a different season. If we saw anything from the last election cycle, elections have consequences, and we're living through those consequences. And when people try to message me and rope me into them conversations about what's going on with politics, I just give my condolences and prayers because it ain't got nothing to do with me. So I just, hey, this is what you wanted, have at it. I'll see you in a few years at the polls again. Dr. Houston, how are you, ma'am?
I am doing well. How's everyone?
We trying to be like you. I mean, that's the best we can do, man.
And I'm harmless, Mr. J Mac. They'll tell you I'm one of the most down to earth people you'll ever meet. Isn't that right, Lamont?
Black person that don't eat meat. A black person don't eat meat. Nah, I ain't going with that. But please continue.
Well, we went to see Superman after church, so it wasn't the Superman I grew up with, but it was a good film. I guess I had different anticipations, but it was okay.
Dr. Houston, we ain't bring on there to be no movie critic. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, ask me about my day. I'm telling you.
I ain't thinking about no darn Superman.
I needed to know about the movie. I needed to know. I needed to know how the movie was.
Today is a day that the Lord has made. We can't be out here.
That was after church, sir. We were cleared by God to go see the movie.
Had white shoes on in the
Oh, there he goes with white shoes.
Hey, I can't say something funny before I go to tears. So we had our church meeting. Anybody watching from Union Baptist Church, don't get mad at me. But we had our church meeting this past Tuesday, and one of the things what the ushers reported on is they're changing their uniforms. And then they said they going all black, and everybody looked at me and started laughing. Hey, I don't know what they meant by that, by looking at me, but I was shaking my head because that is not what we need to be doing, and that should have been cleared by somebody. And so on the Sundays where our ushers are wearing black, I might not be able to make it. I don't know if we're going to a funeral or what we're doing, but sorry about that. I got sidetracked for a second. Tia, how are you doing, ma'am?
I am doing very well. Been out on the ice cream truck, not today, but this weekend with my husband, enjoying our new venture. It's been exciting seeing people smile and people run out of their house. Not mostly kids, but adults that are our age, and they're like, "Oh my God, an ice cream truck! Like you have Bon Pops, like you have ice
Yeah.
cream that we saw when we were growing up." And
The good stuff.
Brings back those positive memories.
yes, it's that nostalgia. That we go in these neighborhoods and the people are coming out, and that's what they're saying. So it's been an interesting experience. I'll get into the other story a little later in the show.
Well, please tell us the ice cream truck name or something. I mean, since Dr.
So
Houston
yes, we
doing
did.
movie
We
critiques,
we have an ice cream truck. The name is Dr. Freeze, and we have been cruising neighborhoods in Rock Hill and Fort Mill. We're going to be making our way through Chester and Lancaster the upcoming weekends. Um, Getting into food truck Fridays in Blythewood. So we're trying to do our best. Been going to a lot of neighborhoods. So hit us up on Instagram, Dr. Freeze Ice Cream, and we'll cruise through your neighborhood. Just let us know where your neighborhood is, and we'll cruise through. A lot of success in apartment complexes at pools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's where we are having like huge success, but we've got tons and tons of kids that are out at pools and doing things over the summer that our parents are saying, please come by, because kids don't have ways to stores and they don't want you walking. So if you come by, it's like the greatest thing ever seeing these people smile. So
Congratulations. That's awesome.
thank you.
no,
Mhm.
definitely congratulations. We need to support local businesses,
Mm-hmm.
businesses that originate from communities within our community. And I'm with Everett. Chris need to put on that big perm, big worm perm.
He were.
Don't give Chris any ideas because he will.
I told you he need to get that masterpiece on the ice cream man.
Man,
It's
there
the
you go.
ice
Play
cream.
that.
I've been trying to get him to turn off the old music, the regular ice cream truck music, and do the upbeat music. So you can download. He has a music box, and you can download these new songs. And I told him just play it off your phone.
Have you ever heard the lyrics to the old song?
Uh,
You're right. J Mac, see there we go, man. We doing that church thing when we don't be knowing what we really the words be meaning, and then
Um,
we just repeat
If
them.
you hear, trust me, you wouldn't want to play it again.
so some of the songs on the music box,
Mm-hmm.
there's history behind some of those ice cream truck songs that are linked to the Pied Piper
Mm-hmm.
and how he drew kids in. But that's a whole nother show and story. So
I want to thank Dr. Houston for her movie review that was unsolicited. Tia's ice cream story that was unsolicited. I want to thank everyone who's watching us so far and starting off with Higher Definition Radio. If anything, when you watch this, you either gonna smile or be mad. Like, man, what are they doing? And I'm here for both of those emotions. Um, and if you want to write Union Baptist Church at 1195 Hamshill Road and petition that we do not change our usher uniforms to black, please do so. Because we need support in the community to keep them white. I'm just saying, if what the people are feeling. What the people are feeling. Speaking of church and church life, we saw a tragedy unfold today where there was a church shooting and two people, I think, have been confirmed killed. And it's one of the shows we just did a couple weeks ago about church security and violence that can happen anywhere. And it's one of the ongoing discussions that a lot of, especially historical black churches, where Sister Betty got that pistol in her purse and Uncle John got a little, his little 22 in his boot, and we think we safe. But J Mac is a man who also is heavily involved in the church. What are your thoughts about church security?
There is it's a very needed discussion, and just the sign of the times, how things are going. You have a lot of people that, you know, they're not coming into the house of the Lord to speak with the Lord. They're coming in the house of the Lord with devilment on their heart. So being able to protect yourself is important. I'm kind of like you. Just because you have the funds to buy a weapon, don't mean you have the training to use the weapon. So we don't just need any and everybody that, you know, got $600-700 to go get a little piece be still. No, make sure the right people have it. Make sure the right people know how to use it. I'm not saying, you know, the pastor got to go to the shooting range and, you know, qualify people, but having some people in the church, I think it helps. Churches are soft targets, just like schools are soft targets. You know, places where you have a lot of people but not a lot of security. If my goal is to make, you know, just do a lot of damage, that's just is what it is. So having some sort of security measures in place, I think is important.
No, and AJ, one of the things people ask me because they never see me sit down doing church service. I don't sit with our deacons that's on the front row. I actually stand in the very back of our church because I feel somebody need to be watching. Somebody need to be making sure things are moving along. You know, not only the slide deck, but making sure that we good inside the sanctuary. Um, and AJ, you grew up in a traditional black church. Do you think there's a need for us to make some changes from a security standpoint?
Yeah, I think in your traditional black churches, you know, you have a, you know, older congregation now. So there is a need for security measures to be changed. Uh, you know, some of your newer churches, you have a younger congregation, they have those measures in place as far as security. People that's, you know, on the lookout. I know in Freedom, you know, we have measures in place to where there are folks that's watching, you know, that's vigilant, that's, you know, watching the movement of the church, because just like J Mac said, you just never know what's going to happen. I'm not saying that even having those security measures in place, you know, nothing bad will happen, but what happens if you don't? You know, you can still have those measures in place and be proactive and prevent something bad from happening. So I think in this day and time, you do need to have something in place because, like J Max said, churches are a soft target. You can't take anything for granted. You know, think about what happened down in Emmanuel Mizan Church with, you know, didn't really have those security measures in place. Um, and those folks basically lost their lives. So, as a precaution, so that everybody can feel safe, yeah, you know, it's a must have in today's time.
No, and you bring up a good point, Tia. When we talk about the church and the church body, especially protecting our kids, I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole, even that level of protection that needs to happen. The church nurseries, we need to make sure the right folks up in there, the right ushers, you know, not the mean ones, but the gentle ushers. Um, what do you think about when we think about church security, especially in the light of two people lost their lives inside the house of God today?
First of all, you know, praying for those families. Um, I think one of the biggest things we think about, you know, security in the aspect of people losing their lives and like people entering into the church. Um, like Jeremy was saying, you know, with hate and malice in your heart, right? With the intent of hurting someone or harming someone. So we think about it from that aspect. But we also have to think about security when we're talking about protecting our children. Like you said, from another aspect of who we have that is around our children in those nurseries, that is, you know, teaching our children in those settings. And I didn't learn this until I left my home church, but a lot of our traditional black churches, we don't do background checks on people. We don't know who is, you know, watching over our kids, because, you know, Johnny's our cousin, you know, that's Susie's son or that's Susie's daughter, and, you know, they good, they've been going to church here all of their lives. You know, so we don't know those things, but, you know, other churches, larger churches, do background checks before you can sit and be a part of, and you teach in their with their children. So you can't just go and teach Sunday school, or you can't just go and be a part of the youth group and teach the youth group and lead a youth ministry and go on trips with kids, without having those background checks. And those boxes have to be checked. And so I think we have to up that in our churches now. Like, we have to step up to what's going on in the world. We have to step that part of our game up in our churches right now. And I know many people are like, well, that's going to cost us more money. Well, you spend the money and save the lives, or you suffer the consequences on the back end. And I've been, on the trustee board at the church before for years. And one of the things, you talk about when you talk about expenses, these are things that you need to put on as regular expenses of who you have in the church, who's in these offices, who's sitting with your children, who's watching over them. Because a lot of times those people are not who you think they are. Not throwing, rocks at anybody, but we don't know who are watching our children. We don't know who's teaching them. Yes, they might know the Bible, but so does Satan.
No, you bring up an excellent point, and I saved Dr. Houston for last. One, she was fumbling with everything. I don't know if the Superman movie messed up or whatever was going on, but because she is in this realm right now, when it comes to trying to educate us also from a church standpoint. Dr. Houston, what are your feelings when you hear that 2 people lost their lives in a church today?
Well, for one, that's tragic. That's something that you never want to hear, especially happening in church. There are certain places where you have that false sense of safety. A lot of times it's at school as well as at church. And I've even talked to a lot of my senior young ladies who are getting ready to go off to college and explain to them that college is a whole new ball game. Just because you are at college, you don't know everybody there. That does not mean that you're safe, and you have to operate a certain way. But as far as the security, I do go to a larger church. We have about 3 to 5,000 members. And so before I would let my children participate in children's church, I volunteered for 2 years, and I was basically the surveillance because I wanted to make sure, like, okay, so do they have protocols and procedures in place? Because safety, being responsible for 700 children and staff members at my school, safety was my job. It was my responsibility to keep everybody safe. And I would tell my staff members a lot of times, what's really happening with people in these spaces is not really like things coming from the outside. A lot of times it's in-house people. And so I would let my staff know, if you bring your stuff to the job, everybody's going to know, because I'm going to make sure everybody is safe. I had to send emails out to everybody to let people know that certain people's spouses were banned from the school, because if you bring mess to the school that could potentially put us all in danger, I'm going to keep us safe. That's my job. And so, same thing with the church. We do the background checks. So that is required. Not only do we require the background checks, we also, you have to have a letter of character, somebody to speak to your character, because with 3,000 people, you might pass a background check, but you might not have good character. My suggestion to the church, I did notice that we did the background checks, but they weren't doing them regularly. So I said, how do y'all know all of these people that we have working with the children have not committed a crime? So they did institute, the background checks are renewed every year now. But it's needed. When we take the children, I work with the pre-K children. When we take them across the hall, we have security guards walking with us just across the hall. I mean, they take it very seriously. We do have actual officers within the church, and then there's people who are not uniformed who do carry, and they have an entire safety plan for the church if anything happens.
No, and I think Jimmy Dixon's point is right on about lawsuits. I think people will be surprised what church insurance looks like. I know for a lot of people, we only go to the church once or twice a week, but that church got to be insured, and it is a heavy, heavy cost. And I think you would be surprised on how much a church pays for insurance. I think we are at a time where you can expect the unexpected. And you're right, there needs to be a security protocol. And, Union Baptist Church is not a small footage church. It has a lot of classrooms. I think we have 8, 9 classrooms. We have a gym. That's not counting the sanctuary classrooms. That's not counting the fellowship hall. What happens if Sister Betty fall out in the middle of service? Do we know what to do? Do we know who's calling somebody? I am amazed at how many people don't know the church address. Like something as simple as where is the church physically located? Do our members know that? Do trained people know who to call, who interact? Now, I know we all want to jump on these different committees. Grandma was an usher, so now I'm taking on grandma's role. But we in the church, and J-Mac, I'll go with you because I know you do a lot again in your church. We got to make sure we in these positions for the right reasons, and we're working in those positions. Some people are in positions for title and title alone and do no work within that position. And you need to check yourself. But go ahead, J-Mac.
When the comment came up about the lawsuits, and the first thing I thought was, and I'm not saying I feel like we need it, but we went to another insurance for our church, and some of the things that are offered in these packages, you don't think about until you see it. Like, yeah, you got fire insurance, and yeah, you got theft, and you got, whatever. There's actually a package in our insurance where, like, if the preacher does something illicit, that they're going to pay it out. Like, and I pray to God that we never have to use that, but you pray to God you don't have to use any of your insurance. So it's just like, churches is a business, and you have to protect that business side of it. I mean, you can try to ignore that fact all you want to, but it's, again, when you start looking at how church runs, like like Dr. Houston said, how a school runs, when you have these institutions that have that many people in one place, it's usually 1 or 2 entrances and exits. So like everything happens as a bottleneck. You spoke to, if somebody falls out, who knows CPR? Who knows how to use the AID? Who knows how to use those things? Does your church have one? If there's a fire in the church, where's everybody gonna go? Like, you should be going over these plans regularly with some team in the church that practices it, and you should be talking about it with the security and the sanctuary and the people. Like, everybody should know. We do fire drills once a month in school. I don't know I've ever seen a fire drill at my church. So if something happens, everybody's going to start running and panicking. Like, that's the point of a drill, so you know what to do when the real thing happens. Churches don't do it because we're still under this thing of, oh, God's going to protect us. And I'm not saying God's not going to protect you. Of course not. I mean, if that's not your thought process, why are you in church? But God also gives you common sense. So common sense says you need to be prepared sometime.
Shout out to Al Crawford, who did a show a couple weeks ago and talked about church security. And he was mentioning so many different things. And it's not a question of if it's something will happen, but it's when it's going to happen. And we see 2 people who were killed, murdered at a church today. It is extremely sad. But we know if we turn on the news next week or the week after, God forbid, something else is going to happen. We just have to be prepared. Tia, why do you think we're so on this preparedness part of getting ourselves ready? Tennille put up about the nursing station. Like, do we got something in our nursing station, or it's just there by title, or is the iodine expired? Did somebody checking that? Why do you think we're so at the church caught off guard with this stuff?
Because I think historically that hasn't been the concern. Historically, in churches, the concern has been tithes and offering and getting the money. It's the billing fund and keeping the doors open. Um, that is what is important, right? Making sure the pastor is paid and you bring in the money. How are you going to get the people there and bring the money in? Jimmy Dixon just put up something. We're very complacent when it comes to the simple things. It's no different than the complacency we have about being at home. Um, I've had conversations even at home, a lot with Chris, and he's like, "Well, we're in the country," and I'm like, "Well, I didn't grow up the way you grow up. I lock doors around here." And a lot of people are like that with the church. Even when you're walking around in the house, I have screen doors locked, I have doors locked. A lot of people are like that at the church. They go to the church to clean up and they're just so complacent about, I'm going to lock the door when I go through the door. It's okay, I'm in the church, so I don't need to lock the door. Anybody could walk in that door behind you. Anyone could be in there. People break in churches all the time. Homeless people sometimes look for somewhere to sleep, and they're in church. They go in through the windows, and they're like, "Well, stuff got broken into." A lot of times, it's not being broken into. They're searching around looking for open doors, open windows, and they just go in. And so it's the complacency, but it's also the traditional. We just don't do that. Um, and I'm just going to put it out there, but how many of us grew up in churches where there's a nurse's station? How many of you go to your church now and there's a real nurse's station? Um, I think it was J Mac that brought up something, AEDs. How many people actually know what those defibrillators are for and who uses them? How to use them? Your defibrillators have to be checked monthly. Like there's a service that you're supposed to pay for, that someone comes out, does an inspection on those defibrillators to make sure that they're working and they're working properly. And then you're supposed to be reporting that data into the state if those defibrillators are not in compliance. You're also supposed to have people trained by professionals that check those AEDs on how to work them. So they're supposed to be certified people, just like you get certified in CPR, that are trained on how to use those defibrillators. You kill somebody at the church if you try to pull that thing out trying to use it and you don't know what you're doing. But how many people are in the church that are trained at their jobs on CPR and you would use that at the church if needed? You don't know. So a lot of things are, we didn't grow up that way, or traditionally we haven't done. So it's a matter of, we don't know what we don't know. So how do we act? How do we react? And I know this might be a shameful statement or a plug for somebody, but there's a business out there in training churches in security and training churches in risk management and how to handle themselves, but also how to protect yourselves as far as emergency situations, also contracts and inspections and things like that that have to be done that we in churches are not doing. Maryland, the fire extinguishers, those are supposed to be checked as well. How often are those things getting checked? How often is someone, if you have security systems, how often is someone coming out to check to make sure your stuff is working properly? Fire alarms, like you said, how often are you doing fire drills and things like those types of things need to be on a list for monthly, quarterly checks and things. And when you're having your church meeting, you need to be discussing these things and doing those things.
AJ, I always find it shocking when I see people ain't locking their doors. Like you see every year that thieves will go through apartment complexes or neighborhoods and break in a whole bunch of cars, but they broke into cars with their doors open and ransack it. It'd be guns, like people had their guns in their car unlocked. What as we think about just the basics of it, we've become complacent. What do we need to do? Because Sister Betty been eating, how we had them after church meals and they full of ham hocks and pork products, and she, her blood pressure run out, and she fall out. I don't need 100 people running up to her. Like, what do we need to do to spark this conversation within churches?
Well, you need to have the conversation in church. I mean, it's a necessary conversation to have. I know it's not a topic that people don't want to discuss, but it's a matter of having that discussion, because to your point, if somebody falls out because their blood sugar is low, high blood pressure, they done fell out or whatever, got lightheaded, you need to have a protocol in place that, we have a nurse, we have somebody, that can basically check check on folks to make sure that, they're okay, or we need to call 911. It's not a matter of, they slaying out in the spirit. It could be a medical emergency, and we need to get them to a hospital. So it's important to have these conversations in church with the administrators, the deacons, the trustees, so you come up with a solid plan as to all of these risks. What do we do in the event that something happens? We need to have a plan in place in the church. Otherwise, to your point, Lamont, something is going to happen and you're not going to be prepared for it.
Dr. Houston, I'll ask you, you go to a multi-ethnic congregation, 3,000 to 5,000 members. Y'all got a protocol if AJ just used the word slain in the spirit. Somebody get the Holy Ghost. Like, I need to go to a church where the protocol is to put the little things over the women's legs. I need to be at that type of church. No, what do you think we need at these churches to get us really motivated to think about safety?
Well, we have safety meetings at our church. That's where I was able to offer that we needed to do the background checks more often than we were doing them. So another thing that we're doing with the work that we're doing with churches with our collaboration is surveys, need surveys, making sure we're hearing everybody's voice. Like Tia talked about earlier, a lot of times in churches, we're traditional. I graduated high school in 1995, and the same credits and courses that were required in 1995 are the same ones that are required right now. So schools, churches, we do things how we've always done them until somebody tells us to do them differently. So surveys would help. Somebody just broaching the subject, hey, what is our safety protocol? Could spark the meeting or the protocol to become in place. Or if you got an idea, take the protocol and say, hey, this would be a great protocol for us to use. But I also wanted to add, too, just from having the school background, a lot of times we think children are safe with other children, and we don't realize that children can also be offenders. They don't have records, they have not been arrested, but they may have offended a brother or a younger cousin or someone. So not all children are safe to be around all children. And you also have to have protocols in place to make sure people know the backgrounds of the children that you're working with, because if not, people will just have in their mind, oh, I'm sending little Susie and Chantel to the bathroom together, and we don't know what's going to happen in that bathroom with the two of them together. And so you have to really know what you're doing when you're working with children and a lot of people.
Oh, thank you for the information. That's important. A lot of crazy stuff happen at churches with kids. I know we don't like to talk about it or act like it don't be there. That's the devil and got in them. But it's a lot of crazy stuff. And Tania brought up a point, and I'll move off this topic, about contact information. I am amazed how many people don't want to give their contact information at the church, who are diabolically opposed that their information might be given out to somebody else. Or we're in a time now that we got to become enlightened. Like, we talk about voting and people need to be enlightened, but just basic living, and that bad things can happen to all of us. And you would much rather the people around you be prepared for those bad things than not. And I think sometimes in that instance, more information is better than less information. Someone who can speak to what medication you on, or grandma got a heart condition, blood sugar might get low, you know, uh, hypertension. Instead of having people fumble around in a place you're going to be for 3 or 4 hours every single week, all year. So just something to think about is we talk about and just talked about our security and protocols within churches. It's important. And I hope if anyone watches this, it wakes us up as a community that we need to do a better job of this, take our safety a little bit more seriously, especially you dealing with people. The only time you see them is on Sunday for the most part. I know we're going to call each other brothers and sisters and we love each other. But we got to do a better job in that. I wanted to have J Mac and Dr. Houston on for a real important reason. Talk about our school and our school safety during this summer and getting our kids. J Mac, as we talk about the school, I know we're at that point now where kids and parents are starting to look forward or look to that point where school will start back for a lot of kids within the next month. What do we need to do to get our kids prepared for that? That next step, you going back.
I'm glad you said kids and parents are not teachers because we ain't looking forward to it. I think one of the biggest things, like now, we kind of touched on it before. A lot of times, a lot of the damage and fighting and abuse and assaults that happen to kids are from other children. And again, it's similar to church. You try to raise your kids to be nice to people. You try to raise your kids to be friendly. You also need to teach your kids to understand that every person that around you is not your friend. It's okay to say, I personally do not want to associate with you anymore. I don't want to be, I'm not your friend. One of the things I tell a lot of my kids, because I teach 8th grade, so they're a year away from high school, start of year is one of my speeches every year, that some of the biggest thing you need to work on this year is your friend group. And you need to remove people from your circle because they're going to hold you down. Like I tell them, your 8th grade year is the most important year you're going to have, because your freshman year in high school is the most important year of school you're going to have ever in your life. I don't care if you go get a PhD. Your freshman year in high school is the most important year you're going to have because it sets up everything else. And you got so many kids that play around in the 8th grade, and then they get to the end of the year and they realize, ooh, I'm in trouble. Had a conversation with a young lady. We didn't have a month left in school. This young lady, again, has been a fighter. She one of the kids got attitude. I'm thinking she's just one of the most terrible young ladies in the building. And we were coming back. It was after first block. So that's when in my school, the 8th grade, that's when they go to gym and art and whatever. And I see her walking up the hall. I'm like, well, where are you going? Like, I'm going to gym. Well, why are you coming from this way? Because the gym, like, I'm finna fuss at her because I'm thinking she's cutting class. Well, she's like, Mr. Mack, I'm coming from the auditorium. Well, why were you in the auditorium? Well, that's where the Math 1 kids go. This young lady is so smart that she's one of the about 15, 20 kids we had that literally go to the high school at the start of the day, take her math class over there, and then come back to the middle school. That's how smart this young lady is. I never knew it because all the thing I saw of her was the attitude and the fighting and whatnot. Fast forward, like I said, it's like a month left in school. And I'm sitting in my room, and I just hear, loud professional cussing, like we were talking about coming up the hallway. And it's this young lady. I pull her in, and I'm like, the thing about you that upsets me the most is I had no idea who you really were because this is what you always show me. And I'm going into how I thought she was and what it is and everything. And she hit me with, that's how I was brought up, blah, 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 blah. But I told her, your reputation at the high school is already very good because they see you coming from here, going over to take math class. So they already thinking very highly of you. You have a chance to reinvent yourself, blah, 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 blah. Get rid of your friends, whatever. we need to start having these conversations with kids all the time. You have people who have trained their kids, just like we do in church, to where you got to be nice and always see the best in people and always find. No, some people are just bad. Some people just they're up to no good. They're out for themselves. They're not going to bring any value to you. Teach your kids one that, yeah, it's okay to say, I don't want to be friends with you. The education side and supplies and the 3 R's and studying, that's going to come. But the personal part of education system, to where we need to get things corrected, just like the church, we just need to start having the conversations. That's just a bottom line part of it.
Dr. Houston, as we're getting ready to get our youth, and I say we, the community, needs to be getting our kids ready for that next step. And that don't mean we need to have 15 different back to school book bag drives. Everybody don't need to be given a book bag. I don't know when that caught on, but man, we slow up a little bit, and we can partner up with people and do those things. But Dr. Houston, what do we need to do to really get our kids in gear for that next step of their life?
I think we really need to make sure we're understanding the future that we're preparing our children for. Because I think that a lot of people feel like, oh, well, they'll learn that in school. But unless you're really directing children, and I'm going to tell you why I'm saying this. Our young lady who she was the salutatorian for her class. She was my former student at the middle school, so I was seeing some things that at one of the high schools. She was posting some things, and I wanted to make sure she was prepared for school. So I asked her, I said, come on by the district office. I want to give you some things before you go to school. And she said, oh, she came by. She said, I'm glad you called me. I said, well, when you go to school? And she said, well, on the 20th. I said, have you registered? No, ma'am. I said, why not? I don't know how to do it. And so, a lot of times she's a first generation college student. So who is she getting to ask about? How do I register for my classes? Which classes do I register for? So I said, all right, we're going to sit here. I took my computer out. We're going to get you registered. If I have to come down to Coastal myself to help you, I will do that, because she doesn't have anybody else. And so when we think about the number of children who are going off to college, first generation college students, they don't have anybody to direct them to, well, which major should I even major in? Am I taking the right classes for this major? How do I even decide? So I'm glad you said that about the back to school, because what we need are more mentors than the back to school. Because I'm going to be honest with you, at my school, nobody really had to buy anything. I bought everybody everything, because when teachers would say things like they're going to send a child to the office about a pencil, no, you're not. You're going to give them one of them pencils that I bought, because I bought everybody a pencil. And I have enough to replace the pencils that they take and don't bring them back. So, we really don't need a lot of the stuff. We need the people. We need the investment into these are the careers that we need to be planning for, because the ones that we think are going to exist are not. We need to be doing our research on what are the future careers, a lot of them in, AI, blockchain development, all of these types of things, to make sure our kids really are taking the right things and understanding what they need to do in order to get to where we really want them to go.
No, and Tia, me and you had this conversation. Dr. Houston just brought up something about the college end. As a first generation college student myself, it's a lot of things I didn't know.
I was one too.
And you bumped into some things that trip you up because you just didn't know. And I'm always shocked, and I tell people all the time about taking worthless degrees. And please don't actually do get on me and call me, whatever you want to do. I had that conversation. But there are some degrees you cannot make a living from, or it's going to be so extremely hard that at a bachelor's level, it does you no financial good. You got more debt then you would be able to pay this degree back. I know the big thing. Never mind, I ain't gonna go down the list of degrees, but for African Americans, will to take certain types of degrees, like everybody has this degree, but no one has a job in that field of their degree. Till, how do we get our youth prepared for that next step in their life? Because this is current events. Like, people finna take a step, and some people are so don't know what they're gonna do. They just join the military, right? Because they just don't know. The world is saying I gotta do something, and they can't figure out the college thing, so they just gonna join the military. So how do we prepare?
So first of all, I applaud Dr. Houston for all that she does with all the young people that she coaches, that she talks to, and she guides them and keeps them on track, because that's the number one thing. We are lacking so many coaches and so many mentors in so many different areas. And I say that because being a mentor and talking to young people, a lot of the reason why what I see is why we lack it is that people want to mentor kids and they want to coach kids, but a lot of us there are roadblocks put up in front of us by parents, by people in the community on, well, when she went to school, she did this, or how is she teaching my baby this and she used to do that, or she did this. And so I hear a lot of that chatter and a lot of those things. Well, what we don't consider is maybe I can mentor your child because I went through that, or because I used to be there, or because I am coming through that right now. A lot of times the best coaches and the best mentors are not those that were trained in school to do just that. It's those that are going through, those that went through the storm and came out of the storm on the other side and looked up at the sun and was like, thank God I made it out. And they've got that testimony to tell, right? So we have got to, like I tell my son all the time, and this conversation that Mon and I have is, I wasn't a first generation college student, but my brother had gone to Carolina and graduated. And when it was time for me to go to school, what I learned was a lot of the things that he didn't know, it fell back on me. I didn't know either. And so I had to figure it out on my own, same way he did, because our parents didn't know. They were working class parents. They didn't know and they didn't have the answers. So we had to figure it out. So as my son ventured into graduating high school and getting prepared for college, the conversation is educating your kids on what I call the IDK, that I don't know. No kid, I feel like no kid in my house should ever be, well, I don't know how to do that. If you don't know how to do it, it's because you didn't ask, or it's because someone didn't step in and say, okay, this is the checklist, these are the things that you need to know how to do. I refuse to allow my son to be going through school and be saying, well, I don't know. Nope, I'm giving him the stuff before the I don't know comes up. So the question is, well, I checked A, B, C, D, and it's more of I don't know where to find it versus I just don't know. I can help you navigate through the system and find everything out that you need to know. I will even take you through it if I have to. But we're not going to be sitting around saying, I just don't know how to do things, just plain out. Because I feel like in 2025, there's no reason that a kid should be saying, I don't know how to do something, when there's so many of us adults out here that know how to do it. We have the resources and we can facilitate you in getting anywhere you need to be. I tell my son all the time, I'm checking up, I'm following in. Yes, he's 19, and they're like, I've heard, well, you doing an awful lot, or you doing too much. No, I don't want you to fall into what I fell into, where you spend your college life trying to figure it out. I've already been through the system of student loans and the system of, getting all your credits and making sure you're taking the right classes and keeping a checklist in your book bag or whatever you're taking on your computer and things like that to make sure you're hitting what you need to hit. But I've also had those conversations with my children about, these degrees aren't get you anywhere. What do you really want to do? Some things, some conversation need to be had at home, not at school, about what kids want to do, because sometimes people will encourage their kids to do things that are hobbies. We need to let kids know up front that everything that they want to do is not a real job. Some things are hobbies, and that's fine. But hobbies don't pay bills. And a lot of people don't want to have those real conversations like, well, I want to do something that I love. I understand that you want to do something that you love, but you love to eat too. And we need to have those conversations. You also like name brand clothes. You love name brand clothes. You like buying clothes. You like to ride in a car, and you like to be able to pay for that car. So we need to have realistic conversations, even as coaches or as mentors. We need to have conversations about, hey, well, if you do this, it only pays this much. And that's about as much as you're going to get. And then it is up to that child to make that decision. But as adults and mentors, we just have to give them that guidance and give them that education on real stuff. Don't be out here fooling these kids and giving them this hope dream, this pipe dream of stuff. We need to be real with these kids, like Dr. Houston was saying, about real jobs. What is going to be out there in the future? What's coming? Because it's coming.
And AJ, I saved you for last for a reason. Both of us share the military experience and then went through college that route. And I would encourage any of our young people to go that route. Not everyone has the means or capable of taking out financial aid, or parents are able to pay for them to go to college straight out. And it's an avenue for a lot of us. But I ask you also, AJ, because you're into the political arena in this area, what do we need to do to prepare our kids for the next step? Because there's so many kids that are not prepared. Once they graduate, they're now trying to figure out what warehouse they're going to work in or whatever, and not prepared for the next step. What do we need to do?
Well, Tia kind of hit on it, and I'll say it. Parents need to have real conversations with their kids to find out in their mind exactly what they want to do with their life. Because in your child's mind, exactly what they want to do in their life may not mean that they need to go off to school, go off to college for 4 years. It may mean that they need to, pick up a trade, become an electrician, become a plumber, become a network technician, Cisco certified, something of that nature. That a lot of our school districts do offer those opportunities. Because in your parents, your child better than anybody. If they're not the most studious, if they never really talked about college, but they always talked about that desire to be a mechanic, a desire to work with their hands or whatever, then obviously college is not going to be the first choice for them, to be able to go up to school and waste a year or two or whatever, student loan debt, and then they come back home and then they're basically lost to trying to find themselves. So you need to have those real conversations with your kids to find out exactly what it is that they want to do and what's the next steps for them. The other thing that I want to mention too is, and I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but those opportunities where your child sits down with their counselor in high school and is figuring out what the path is as far as classes and all of that stuff and what they want to be, that kind of guides them to graduation. It's important for you to be sitting down and listening to that conversation and helping your child make those decisions. And they're not in that office on their own making those decisions. I hear so many times where kids are in that appointment or whatever with their counselor, and I'm not sure if Dr. Houston said this or Tia, but they're convinced or they're persuaded in going into a path that may not be a right fit for them. It's important for that parent to be there to say, no, this is the path that my child needs to be on. Another thing that I also want to add too is when we talk about mentors. When I think about a mentor, two key things that a mentor should do. A mentor should be a good listener, and a mentor should be a good teacher. A lot of us are not good mentors. Doesn't matter about the title that you have, doesn't matter about the things that you have. Are you a good listener, and can you teach and guide? Those are the principles that I look for in regards to being a mentor, because I'm looked at as being a mentor in corporate America, but I'm also looked at as being a mentor in the community. And those are the two things that I basically focus on: listening and being a good teacher when those two opportunities present themselves.
No, you bring up an excellent point, and I'm gonna come to you, Dr. Houston. Um, One of the things we need to be cautious of is letting someone else decide our kids' future, without being in that passenger seat with our kid, understanding what they are interested in, understanding their likes, their dislikes, and some people they need the military. I ain't gonna say I disagree with Tia about everybody can go to college, but listen, some people need the military. Some people need some of the discipline that they might not have taken seriously or got at home, to get them up in the morning, to tell them when to go to bed, to push themselves physically and push themselves emotionally. What are your thoughts, Dr. Houston? I know you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to add, and I think you're right. One of the things I used to always tell all of my students was that everybody had genius. It didn't matter if you were going to college, if you were going to become a welder or a plumber, because to be able to read plans to build a home, to be able to um, put plumbing in a house and read blueprints to do that, it takes a level of genius to be able to do that. And because people in academia think so much of themselves, we have created this hierarchy in the world where, oh, college is the way to go if it is needed for your career. So I would always stress that to my students. The training that you need for your path is what you need. There is not a better one path is not better than the other. So I always stress that to them. And the other thing is that Generation Z is projected to hold 17 careers in their lifetime. So about every 3 years, they're going to be changing jobs. It's not going to be the traditional thing that we have done. We go get a job for 30 years. So our children need exposure because they may be in multiple different career fields. So they need to really be exposed to multiple things.
No, you
And
bring up.
I just
Go ahead.
wanted to elaborate on what I said. You were saying that financially, a lot of people can't afford school or they just don't have the means and they can't get financial aid. And so I was saying I disagreed, and I believe that every child can go to school if they want to. If you want to, the means are there. If you want to, the means are there, and that means trade school. That means 4 year school, but that also means what I tell my kids. There are certificates all over the place to get you where to do whatever it is that you want to be, to get you the job that you want. There's certificates that don't require you to go to school for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It doesn't require that. You could take a class for 5 days and be certified in something and be doing what you want to do. You can take a class for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. I mean, look at the kids that go to the Career Center and they take these things for a semester and then they go take a state exam and they're certified welders, they're certified electricians, they're cosmetologists, they're estheticians. They're these things that don't require the level of education, like Dr. Houston is saying, that academia has said this is the standard, this is the gold, right? But is it really? Is the question that you have to ask. That's why I say you have to be realistic with your child, but you have to be an active listener to your kid. You have to be listening as a parent to what your kids are saying that they want to do, and you have to be behind that and support that in every way. If your child likes art, there's no way as a parent that I would not be backing that up, taking them to art shows, getting them in art classes and things like that. I would be all over this country doing that if that's what they were interested in. You have got to put that stuff into them if that's what they're interested in, if that's what they want to do. So, yes, the means are there if that's what you want to do. But I mean, that could be a broad scope of things: certificates, 1 day classes, 2 day classes. If you want to go to school, if you want to learn anything, if you want to do it, there is a means to do it.
J-Mac.
Well, one thing before you transition, Lamar, I have a thing that I always said with my kids: kids will be what they see. You know, if and if they don't see it, that they don't know that it's an opportunity for them to achieve it. So you have to expose your kids to the endless possibilities of what they can be. You know, and I think that's important too. You know, take them to see different things, expose them to different things, and that's going to help them choose the path that they want to be, as they grow up and and as they progress through life. So I always say kids will be what they see. Okay, Lamont.
No, you're fine. I was gonna say, J Mac, I'm super proud of you, as your shirt says, as being in the 2% of black male teachers. But I want to say I disagree with Tia and Dr. Houston. Nah, some of these kids are not geniuses. They've been eating pace. They ate pace as kids, and they have pace like attributes as teenagers, and that's how they're gonna be as adults. I think sometimes, and Jimmy brings up this point about taking education seriously, like in the Asian community. He's right. They weed out. They weed out early on the folks who out here eating pace early. They already know, nah, man, this ain't for you. We're not gonna waste our resources and time on you. But J-Mac, being in the 2%, sir, how do you motivate? See, that's why I'm not a teacher, because that wouldn't work out me giving that spiel at the end of the semester. You've been eating pace when you was in kindergarten. I know you're a pace eater, but J-Mac, how do you motivate the kids?
I won't go as far as you said, but I do think there is some truth to what you're saying. I agree with what Dr. Houston and what Tia was saying. Like, if you want it, it's there for you. Mm-hmm. But you also have to be realistic, going back to what you said. If I know that I've never been good at school, I've never liked school, I didn't like to study, I didn't want anything to do with this, I tell my kids flat out, a 4-year college is not for everybody. For some of you, it's going to be a waste of time and a waste of your money. But I also say you're going to need something besides just a high school diploma these days. So that can be a trade school. You don't need 4-year schools to go to be a plumber, to be an electrician, to be that. And like Tia said, you can get certified in these things a lot of times in high school. So just that high school diploma, that's not going to cut it these days. I mean, there are jobs out there that's going to hire you for that. But the way things are going, the way the cost of living is growing up and all these things, you're going to need more than just that diploma. But that doesn't mean you need a 4-year degree. Now, if it's a career that you want to go into and it requires a 4-year degree, baby, by all means, go to college. But if you want to, again, I have kids, like, what you want to do? I don't know. The first thing, you got to weed out. I want to be NBA. I want to be NFL. I want to be rapper. You got to get them out of the way early. Those are pipe dreams. That's a dream. That's not a goal. So we ain't going to talk about that. Well, what do you enjoy doing? Well, I don't know. Like, I like working on cars. Well, that's a career. You like to work on cars. You're like, well, do you want to do the paint and body? Do you want to do transmission? Do you want to do engine work? I don't know. I've been messing with my grandpa. We've been building the engine in his car for the last 5 years. Oh, so you like working on cars. Son, you realize you can take an auto mechanic to get certified in school, even if you want to take a couple of extra classes to get a specific thing, and boom, you're going to be making more money than me, and I got a 4-year degree. So I do push that side of it. No, college, like actual 4-year college, is absolutely not for everybody. If you want it, I'm gonna help we'll help guide you there. But if you are not a school person, you don't like school, why would you sign yourself up for more of that when it's just like you said, you're going to end up in debt. You got all these things going on, and you might end up not even doing anything in the career you want to. But you've been doing your cousin's hair, you've been doing your friend's hair since you was 13 years old, and you're actually good at it. You actually know how to do the box braids and this and that. Well, baby, go get your cosmetology degree, and you can make money off of that. Mess around and own your own shop. You making bank. You like working on cars with your uncles. Go get a mechanic. Your father owns a plumbing business, and you've been doing plumbing and just around the house with him forever. Go get certified, and you got this. So there are avenues to get whatever it is you want. And this is going to go back to what Lamont said. You also have to be realistic about it. Again, it ain't for everybody. It's like I'm big on that. Like, nah, you don't need to go to college because it's gonna be a waste of time and money. But you need something. And it's not on me to say what that is. Like, I'm never gonna point to somebody to say, no, you don't need to go to college. I won't do that. But if I'm speaking broad to a classroom and say, yeah, everybody is not supposed to go to college, but everybody needs an education past high school. So you need to decide what path you're on when you're ready to make that decision. The problem is, and this is going back to like Tia and Doctor was saying, we have a lot of parents that either A, don't know how to do it themselves because they were never exposed to it. They never went to college. They never had these experiences. Or two, and this is the one that kills me, their expectations for their kids is more than what the kid wants for themselves. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't motivate your kids. I'm saying that if I want to be a mechanic because I love working on cars, but my daddy wants me to be a doctor, I don't want to be a doctor. That's not my passion. That's your dream for me. I love working on cars. I love painting cars. I love working like, let me do this. I've always wanted to be a truck driver. We went to Disney World, and every time I went past a truck and I did right this, he blew the horn. That made me fall in love with trucks. So I want to be a truck driver. You have to understand where your kids are. You have to understand your kids' aptitudes and abilities. You have to understand your kids' passions. Don't put your dream of what you didn't achieve in your life onto your kids. And it's a lot of people that do that. Like, I always wanted to be a doctor, and now I never missed out on it. So now I'm going to push my child to be a doctor. He don't want to be a doctor. You want to be a doctor. And that was that. So finding out what your kids are interested in, finding out what your kids are good at, finding out what your kids' abilities are. Again, finding out what your kids' genius are. Everybody has something. Everybody has a level of intelligence that puts them above the average person. Everybody you meet has some sort of topic that they're a genius at compared to the average person, because that's just where their passion is. Find out if your passion is something you can turn into a career, because every passion is not a career. But you do have to like be a realistic person as that kid, as that parent, as a teacher, and make sure what you're pushing on that child is, one, what the child wants to do, and two, what the child's able to do. Because again, like I'm full force on that. College isn't for everybody, but I mean, you can find something you want to do and make that a career, and you'll be perfectly happy. And as Tia said, it's money out there to be made that does not require even a 2-year certification. You can take classes online. You can go to this, summer camps that teach this. You can have these different things to get you what you need, and you're working, making plenty of money, and you're perfectly happy every day. So it's that realism I think we've lost sometimes, that we want what we want for our kids, not what that kid wants for themselves.
I'm going to let Dr. Houston clean up what I said, but that's good. You and Dr. Houston and Tia and AJ, y'all good people, man. Let me say, J-Mac, what you describe, people wanting more from their kids than they were, I wholeheartedly believe a lot of these sports parents who are 5'4", slow, mama 5'2", who think they kid finna be the next NFL great in this area, or finna be the next, basketball player. The kid ain't got no hands. We need to have a real conversation and stop this playing around. But I want Dr. Houston, before we get ready to do our wrap up, to kind of clean up what I said, because it sounds like J-Mac, Tia, AJ are saying, and Dr. Houston are saying, yeah, there's some professional pace eaters out here that are geniuses, and we need to cultivate that genius in their pace eating. We knew they were pace eating Pace Eaton in first grade, and they still got a tendency in the 10th grade, but we supposed to say you're a genius, baby. You keep on eating that Pace, you're gonna be okay. But go ahead, Dr. Houston, clean up what I'm
That
saying.
kid is a genius at pace. He knows what a good glue is versus a bad glue. He can tell from just the taste and the smell which glues work better. So let that kid work in a glue factory. You know, you figure out what it is you're good at, figure out your passion, even if it's eating the glue, and you turn that into a job if it's something you can turn into a career. Because every passion is not a career. Like I said, you got to figure out what you're good at. You got to figure out what you want to do. Find out if you can make some money off of that. Can you make that a career? And then you pursue it. So,
yeah. Clear it up before we do our wrap up, man.
J Mac cleared it up. He said it.
J Mac talking crazy too.
Everybody,
every kid is the future. And
no, I did not say that. You didn't hear me say that.
Everybody can be the president.
I didn't say that either. Well, if you
no one said those things.
No, kids up out of here.
Everybody does have their own level of genius, and unless you empower children to feel like, hey, I can do something, because they've heard all of the negative stuff, and sometimes a lot of the negative things might be coming from home. It could be coming from years of, oh, you're not on grade level, and that's what I would tell teachers when we're a lot of times providing students with certain services. If they've heard every year of their life, hey, you're not good at school, you didn't pass this test, which doesn't mean you're not good at school. It might mean you didn't have a good teacher, you know. So the things that we tell, the subliminal messages that we tell to children, tears them down. My point is, every child can be built up, because we want them all to graduate to do something. So everybody has genius. Whatever their thing is, that's their thing. You might be building video games, you might be, welding, you might be doing plumbing, you might be going to be a surgeon, you might be doing hair. Whatever it is, it's something that you know that somebody else don't know, and that's your genius. That's your thing. Cultivate children, build them up. Don't tear them down.
I like the way you're talking. We're going to get ready for our wrap up. I want to take that clip of you saying that, Dr. Houston, and mash it with me talking about Pace Eaton and put that clip out.
Oh, God.
These kids that are eating Pace Month are chemical engineers. Stop it.
Yes.
AJ, I love doing, listen, higher definition has been my baby for 18 years. And a lot of it is because I get to have real conversations with real smart people that I might not be in that same space with, to hear everyone that might not agree on every single nuance, and it enlightens me. So I love doing this, and I love having different types of people on. So AJ, anything in closing? It don't matter what we've been talking about. Anything in closing you want to leave us with?
Yeah. First, I want to say, and we didn't get to this, but I want to say my condolences to families who lost the two young men, shooting that basically happened within 2 to 3 weeks of each other here in Rock Hill and basically in my community. The sad part about it is in the Black community, we have become numb to gun violence. We are treating this as like it's the norm. And I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I have all the answers. I don't think another Stop the Violence event is going to solve that problem. But I do know that it's going to take all of us to be a part of the solution. And within our own community, I always say this all the time, nobody's coming to save us, when it comes to this situation that we're dealing with in our community when it comes to gun violence. We must step up and save ourselves. We must step up and find the solutions to these problems, because this is going to continue to happen again and again, as we've seen that is continuing to happen. And I also want to say too, and we don't give our local law enforcement credit, but shout out to the Rock Hill Police Department for finding the ones that were, I won't say that were, that did it, because, it's their, they got to go through the process for its court, but they found the suspects, the ones that were, as of right now, behind what has happened. But we really do got to step up and find the solutions to this problem. Otherwise, it's going to continue to be chaos in our community, and we're going to see this happen all over again. But in saying that, Lamont is always a great opportunity to be on with you and in JMac and Dr. Houston and Tia and anybody else that I'm on the show. I always look forward to these conversations. So hopefully everyone has a great week, and I look forward to the next opportunity to be on with you again.
Thank you, AJ. J-Mac, any final words, anything?
I don't know you as a child, so I don't know if you was one of those pace eaters you was talking about earlier.
He was.
But
J-Mac, I'm petty, so be careful what you say.
I know. I'm gonna clean it up.
Elmer
But think about what you just said about how you have cultivated this platform over the last almost 20 years. That's your genius. That's your thing. At some point in life, you realize I have a knack for talking, which you absolutely do, which led you into what you're doing now. So again, talking was your genius. Being able to bring conversation out of people, being able to link people up. That's a genius. Like, I know how to run my mouth, but I couldn't host the show. Like, being able to set people up and do whatever, that's a genius you had. So when we start talking about finding the genius in your kid, it's finding something that they are good at, that they are able to excel in. I am absolutely with that one. Even in Football City, USA, y'all in Rock Hill, and y'all got more NFL players coming out of it than anybody else. You ain't got but so many NFL players. You ain't got but so many NBA players. You ain't got but so many rappers, so many singers, so many actors, whatever. So that's the one part I do feel like a lot of parents are wrong in. And again, coming from the situation with my pops, like, it's been people that we knew certain people was like, yeah, you got pro talent. Now you got to get the pro work ethic. We got some, you ain't going to play pro Madden on the video game. You got to drop it down in rookie league because you ain't that good to play Madden on a pro level, and you think your child is good. So that is the realism I think we need to start putting into some of our parents. They're looking for that quick way out. They're looking for their kid to, again, do what they wanted. So, yeah, again, find your genius and work on it.
I think J-Mac, thank you again for joining us. I think you tried to call me a pace eater on the slide.
No. I said I didn't know. I didn't know. That's what I said.
That's why I took that. So thank you.
I know.
Tia, any final comments? Any final thoughts?
A few, actually. So I don't think J-Mac called you a pace eater, but I did. I call you an Elmer glue eater. So, I know your mom watches the show. So, I mean, she probably shaking her head in the background, my baby ate that Elmer's glue. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. But also to AJ's comments about the families that have lost the young people. Just some things to keep in mind in looking at statistics, and in Black communities, we are losing a lot of lives. We are losing a lot of young people to gun violence. And I know a lot of people are out here and they say, well, we need to get control over guns. There's too many guns out here. But something J-Mac was saying, I can't remember if it was we were before we got on, but just because you have the money to buy a gun doesn't necessarily mean you have the training or even that you need a gun. The Violence Policy Center had data from 2022 that Black Americans only represented 14% of the U.S. population, but 54% of all homicide victims. 54% of all homicide victims. I didn't say people that were committing homicide. I said were 54% of homicide victims. So that says a lot about our community and the fact that Black homicide victimization, this is something that is real. Like, this is something that happens all the time, every day. this victimization of Black people, and especially our young Black men, like we have to figure out something in our communities and in our homes or something to try to stop some of this. And I know no one knows where to start, but we have got to figure something out. 90% of Black homicides were shot with guns. 90% were killed with guns. Those are like astounding statistics. And it might not seem like a lot, but South Carolina ranked 13th in this country for youth and young adults from ages 10 to 24 for homicide victims. And so we're talking 13th in the country. So just leaving those statistics, like there's work to be done out here. There is coaching, there is mentoring to be done to keep our kids off these streets and out of jail and out of these funeral homes and in these graveyards. So anything that I can do, anything to help pull something together where we're talking about local crime and what can we do? How can we keep our kids safe and keep them off these streets, out of jail, and out of these graveyards?
Let me thank you, Tia, for those comments, and definitely condolences to the family of Raquel. It's one of the topics we didn't get to, but it's getting all too normal and natural to see Raquel and gun violence as Raquel grows very rapidly. Let me say this on a side note. Last year, Jeremy, you were on close to when school started, and we asked you to post your school list in our thread. Do that again. I'm sure things will get taken care of. And I encourage people when they're donating and giving to teachers, move in silence. Like everybody ain't got to know every single thing you doing, because it comes across unnatural. And it'll become more about you than the kid or supporting the teacher. I got to figure out a way, and I'm going to say this out loud in the atmosphere, to kind of put together a way that teachers who do need school supplies, that it's all in kind of one place and people can cherry pick what they can do or the things they need. So I'm speaking that in the atmosphere for anybody watching who want to help me figure out a way to put that together.
Amazon wish list.
To get that to the teachers who need it. But I encourage people again to move in silence. I can give you a biblical scripture on that. But I'm just giving you the human thing that everybody ain't got to know what you do, man. You're doing too much. You out here, and I'll say, if you were looking for attention when you was in the first grade, you were looking for attention when you was in the 8th grade. Now you 48, you still looking for attention. Go sit down somewhere. It's time for that to be over. Dr. Houston, any final comments, ma'am?
Yes, thank you for having me on, Lamont. And I can tell J Mac is a good teacher because he used this platform, being your genius, as a good teachable moment. That was a great example. Condolences, like everybody else said, to the family. And just to the final thoughts, exposure, as much as we can expose our kids, children participated in camps this past week through Midlands Technical College that was sponsored by the governor's school. Um, Bella is an artist, so she did architect camp. Lizzie wants to be a surgeon, so she did human body camp. She was able to dissect a cow's eye, a sheep's heart, and a rat. And Bella built a zoo and a house using CAD software. So, and then there were, like, I paid for the camp, but if you could not pay for the camp, there were scholarships available. So look for things for your children to do over the summer, whatever your children are interested in, until they really have experiences in that area. They really don't know what they want to do. They don't know if they really like what they think they may like until they get to have some experiences. So as parents, it's our jobs to make sure we're guiding that process. And if you don't know, Ask somebody, somebody who potentially may know a place that your child can go into a camp. I helped several children from my middle school qualify for those summer programs for free to go to the governor's school. That changed the trajectory of their lives. So just, ask people if you're not sure, but make sure our children are getting that exposure. And then for mentors, don't wait for children to contact you. Reach out to them. If I had just waited for these children to contact me, they probably would have not even gotten registered for school. I'm reaching out to them. Hey, come on by here to see me. Let me check on you. Let me see what's happening, because I know at 47, my self-esteem now is way different than it was when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They don't have that self advocacy yet, or the ability to speak up for themselves. So reach out to them, ask them questions. And the last thing I'll say is that I posted the Baltimore mayor, Brandon Scott. It said he invested in 42 summer youth camps, 29 literacy programs, extended the rec center hours until 11 p.m., planned block parties, opened the pools for safe fun, opened several schools up for summer classes, and crime is down 62%.
I was gonna bring that up. I forgot about it. I was thinking about that.
And so when are we, people have gotten together and planned a whole project 2025, the demise of multiple people. When are we going to get together to plan success for our children? Proactive. All we got to do is get together and make the plan. Which churches, which schools, who going to be a part of the plan? The plan is out here. They've given us the blueprint. All we have to do is execute, get together. Like AJ said, nobody's coming to save us. No one is coming to save our children. It's up to us. Either we are going to do it or it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Dr. Houston. Sound like you're running for mayor or governor.
Not
Just
running for
let us know.
nothing.
We'll support
School board,
whatever you're running for. Let us know. We here for you. I'm taking a lot of the show and just taking a lot of the conversation that we have. I'm proud to call each of you a friend. That we can have honest conversations and honest dialogue about important things. Our kids' future is very important.
Mhm.
I stress that a lot in church. Like, hey, we're not going to be around forever. And we need to prepare the next generation. And they're probably not going to do it the exact same way you're doing it. It's going to look a whole different way because the world is changing so rapidly. But we have to prepare them and prepare them to think on their own also. Not to be puppets. We're saying we got to do this thing at this time, because that doesn't work for anyone, especially with these newer kids. They got questions, and we need to be able to provide direction and answer. So again, I say thank you for all the people who joined us tonight, who watched this, who will watch this on replay. We are appreciative. We're thankful for the Higher Definition family. We're thankful for the Higher Definition friends. The people come on this show as friends and have honest conversations about serious topics and some lighthearted. I'm thankful for anyone who sends a email to Union Baptist Church at 1195 Hansmill Road about our switch to our black usher uniforms. That doesn't seem like it's of God, and I just want to go on record and say that. I probably won't be at church the first time we do that. We need somebody got to stand up for what's right and what's wrong. In that, I'll say be blessed, everyone. Enjoy the summer. It has been a hot one. Please be safe. I feel sorry. If you ride down Cherry Road in Rock Hill, we have a homeless population that's quite large. And you see a lot of people that are out in the elements in the middle of the day. Please say a prayer. If you can help, drop off water, because they're right on the side of the road. They're not far, and you're not going to miss them. So please do what you can to support within your community. And with that, I would say have a blessed week. Be safe. Again, happy birthday, Everett. You know, we miss you from the show, and I know you would have told me I was doing too much, but we appreciate you anyway, sir. Have a blessed and safe night, everyone.